Okay, you guys, so we are carrying on in our radicals unit, and today with this example, we are multiplying and simplifying radicals. Remember I told you that, you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide radicals, but if you don't know how to simplify them when you're done with the operation, where's the blue? There it is. Okay, then you'll get it wrong every time. So we have, not only do we have to multiply, we also have to simplify. And this is, parentheses means what? Multiply. So we'll just get started. And this is obviously the distributive property, which is fine. So we're going to go draw the arrows. Here we go, 1 and 2. This is not difficult, okay? So what you need to know, put the star. Do it now, okay? You have to multiply like with like, okay? So when you're multiplying a radical to a radical, you do multiply the numbers that are inside the radical, okay? So radical 10 times radical 6 gives you a radical 60.
How do you do that?
Okay? And then radical 10 times the whole number 3, okay, is going to give you positive 3 radical 10. Okay? So let me say that again. When you're multiplying the radicals, you do multiply the numbers that are inside. And then when you multiply a radical to a whole number, it's like if you were to do 3 times x, your answer would be 3x. Okay? Well, same thing here. You're multiplying, we have to treat the radical like a variable. Radical 10 times 3 is going to be 3 radical 10. Okay? So now we have to look at this expression and say, is this as simplified in both of these that we can possibly get? Okay? And the answer is no. Okay? In the first radical, no, that's not as simplified as we can get. In the second radical, yes, okay, because there is not a perfect square in 10. Like what times what gives you 10? And one of those numbers has to be a perfect square. That's not the case. It's either 1 times 10 or 2 times 5. So this component is as simplified as you can get. But the first radical is not as simplified as we can get because we have what times what gives us 60, and one of those numbers has to be a perfect square. That's going to be 4 times 15. Okay? So all you have to do for this is only simplify the first one, because this is as simplified as you can get, so this is the only one you have to simplify. Okay? So if we draw the roof, we know it's 4 times 15, right? What times what gives me 60, and one of those numbers has to be a perfect square. 4 times 15. Pull out the square root of 4, and we have 2 radical 15 plus 3 radical 10, and this is your whole answer. We're done. Okay? We obviously can't combine them, right? Because what is the rule for combining them? They have to be what? Exactly the same in order to do the combining. But they're not exactly the same, so we stop here. Okay? And why is 15 as simplified as we can get? Because it's 1 times 15, 3 times 5, and none of those numbers are perfect squares. So we're done. Okay? We're going to do our next example. And I'm going to scroll it up for you.
It's frozen.
I know. Just going to move it up for you. Okay, so let's write this down. Example B. Okay? So, again, parentheses mean multiply. Okay? So it's going to be this times this. And we have to do what we already know how to do. We take the first term and multiply it to these 2 terms. And then we take the second term and multiply it to these 2 terms. But there are no variables here. Okay? So what you need to know is that you do have to be very careful because you do have to multiply like with like. So we have radical 6 times radical 6 gives me what? Radical 36. Because 6 times 6 is 36. Now, radical 6 times radical 3 is radical 18. Again, you're multiplying the numbers that are inside the radicals. Now take the second term. Draw your arrows 1 and 2. Okay, to signify that we're multiplying the second term to the same two terms in the second binomial. Okay, so now, even though it's not there, you know there's a 1 here and a 1 here. Okay, so you have to multiply the numbers first and then the radicals. So a negative 2 times 1 gives me a negative 2. Okay, and then radical 3 times radical 6 is radical 18. Okay, and then do it again. Even though it's not there, you know there's a 1 there. So multiply the numbers first. So negative 2 times a positive 1 is negative 2. And then radical 3 times radical 3 is radical 9. Here we are. We just finished the multiplying. And now here is where it kicks in with simplifying. Okay? I told you that you can multiply till the cows come home, but if you don't know how to simplify after that, you'll get it wrong, and you'll get it wrong. You won't be able to come to the final answer. So, looking at this list here, I'm going to take advantage of and simplify what I can on the spot. Now, you know that the radical means take the square root of whatever is inside. Well, this is just a plain old radical 36. What's the square root of 36? 6. Okay, do we have like radicals here? Yes, they match. So therefore, can we combine them?
Yes.
Yes. So draw your rainbow. Do it now.
Also 36.
So even though it's not there, you know there's a 1 there, right? So when we combine them, a positive 1 and a negative 2 gives you what? Negative radical 18. Are you with me? Okay? I'm doing this one step at a time. Now look here. This is a negative 2 times radical 9, or negative 2 times the square root of 9, or negative 2 times whatever the result of that is. So what's the square root of 9?
3.
Yes. And a negative 2 times 3 is?
Negative 6.
Negative 6.
How come
And we cross it out as we go along.
how come you didn't get 36 when you combine 18 and 18?
How come I didn't get 36? Because this is combining and they stay up. It's just like negative x. It's just like a positive x minus 2x. What does that give you? A negative x. Okay. So here we are. We're still simplifying it down. Okay. So a positive 6 and a negative 6 give you what? They cancel each other out. Do you see that? Now all we're left with is this. Now we have to say, is this as simplified as we can get? What times what gives me 18? But one of those numbers has to be a perfect square.
9 and 2.
9 times 2, you guys, we're not done. When you know that there is a perfect square in that number that is inside, you have to break it down into what times what, okay? So bring down this is a negative 1 times whatever we pull out, and the square root of 9 is 3. What is still left over under the roof? 2. And a negative 1 times 3 is? Negative 3. And so our final answer from all of that, our final simplified answer is negative 3 radical 2. Okay? Let's pause it.